Welcome to Greater Good Radio Hawaii, where leaders inspire leaders. Greater Good Radio Hawaii is dedicated to social entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Evan Leong, and with me is my co-host, Carrie Leong.
Today's guest is Sanford Murata, the president and CEO of Sanford Murata Inc. Sanford has 35 years of experience in real estate development, including the directorship position of Kamehameha School's Commercial Assets Division. He is heavily involved in many community organizations, including the Sunrise Rotary. Please welcome to Greater Good Radio, Sanford Murata. Welcome to our show, Sanford.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So as entrepreneur and being involved with so many different things in your life, what are you currently doing?
Well, we're doing a lot of things. I'm at a time in my career when I want to be able to pass on the knowledge I've gained through the 41 years of my practice to others. So one of the major roles that I play is a bridge. I bridge opportunities to people, and that's what we're doing. But more specifically, what we're doing is looking for ways in which we can serve the community. So the real estate projects we take on has to have some kind of a community benefit, what I call social value. So we look for social value in a number of projects that we are doing now that have that social value component to it.
So can you give us an example of what you're talking about?
An excellent example is Kunia Camp. Kunia Camp is a former pineapple plantation camp. The plantation camp was originally intended to terminate operations in December of 2008. Unfortunately, it terminated in January of 2007, about 2 years before the intended termination date. And consequently, what happened is you have these former pineapple plantation workers who may be displaced because they're living in rental housing. So our job, working with Group 70, the architect, and Campbell, the landowner, was to find a way in which we could keep the former employees who occupied the houses in their homes, initially as renters and eventually as owners. That's the project that we're working on. It has great social value as we can provide affordable housing for people who normally wouldn't have that opportunity.
Through your career, have you always had the social conscious, or was it something that eventually, evolved into?
There was a social conscious, although I believe now it's maybe more evident. That is, I think about it more than I have in the past. Because in the past, as a young real estate professional, you don't have as much, say or influence on what you do. Well, now that I'm in a position where I have great influence on what I do, it's more a conscious effort to look for those social value opportunities.
Is it because you're just trying to make the most of your time nowadays, right? Because you don't have to actually do it. So since you are going to do it, you might as well get the biggest reward for it.
That's an excellent perspective. Absolutely right. As you wind down your career, and you might say the fall of my full season, entering winter, which winter is when you are no longer practicing. But you're right, when you are ending the full activity of your career, then you want to do things that are more meaningful.
Well, you said that you're trying to get the next generation to think this way.
Yes.
And it is something that's becoming a little bit more popular amongst the business members. Do you find that you don't necessarily have to convince them to do it, but it's been easy for them to convert their mind and their philosophy for?
The influencing is not difficult. It's the how-to that's difficult. Because the people that I'm attempting to teach the idea of serving the community are young professionals. So they're in their, say, mid-20s to maybe early 40s. And they're just starting their careers. So they don't have either the wherewithal, the resources, or the experience of the how-to. So my goal is to guide them into how do they serve the community while they have all of these other priorities in front of them.
And then how do you do that, though?
Well, I'll give an example. I formed a discussion group in February of '06, so we've been together for about a year and a half, the purpose of which is to learn from each other. But my hope is that by talking about how we can serve the community, they can learn what they can do and go beyond the notion that they have to be well off, or they have to be business executives, or chairman of their company in order to serve the community. You guys are a perfect example. You guys are very young. You're young entrepreneurs. You didn't wait till you were 40 or 50 or 60 before you served the community. You're doing a fantastic service to the community through your Greater Good radio activity, because you're reaching out in terms of leverage. You have tremendous leverage because you're reaching out to many people through today's ways in communicating, high technology way of communicating. So you are able to do it. Others may not be so confident they can do it. So one of the things I tend to do is build that confidence. You can do it. Even if it's just serving one person every day, that can be a meaningful community service. It can be a noble act. They just have to be convinced that that is a good way to do it.
Is this an act that they need to do through their company or a business they're involved in, or are you telling them to go out and separately do this in a nonprofit organization?
Harry, I think it can be done many ways. I think in all those ways it can be done as an individual, something you do because you believe it's the right thing to do and because you're passionate about serving others. You can do it through your organization. You can create programs that your organization, your companies will support. You can be a member of a larger community service organization, such as Rotary. I'm a member of Rotary. There are about 2.5 million members worldwide, and we touch a huge number of people. So you can do community service in many, many ways, but I think it starts with yourself. You have to be committed and willing to do something for others because you want to do it, not because somebody expects you to do it, because it's great for your resume, or because of other kinds of factors that may not be as meaningful.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.